I will forever think that a lot of the human structures that we operate do not have the ability to operate under any level of nuance. And I say this because we have a lot of very rigid structures that do not allow for any context behind a situation to be explained or to be experienced or to be understood. It's simply this is the rule, this is the punishment. That's it. And there's almost no middle ground between understanding that there could be layers behind something that is being experienced, especially when it comes to what I'd like to say the law, cops, and people who believe that they are upholding it for the better good of everybody else. So, and I'm not going to say this to condone drunk driving or anything like that, right? But I heard something today and it kind of made me think, I'm like, that wasn't the statistic I think you thought it was. So, the statistic is that it takes somebody about 300 times drunk driving before they get arrested or before they get caught once. And the kind of crazy part about that is, wouldn't that infer that, and again, please understand, we got to understand, right? What I'm saying is there is nuance, as in there are levels, there are layers to the things I'm saying before y'all come for my fucking neck. But wouldn't that insinuate that there is a capacity to operate to a certain level while having certain levels of alcohol under your system, and that one drink wouldn't insinuate or would not cause instant need or concern for harm to another person? Because even then, looking into that statistic, what I found out was most people who get stopped for drunk driving, it's not because they were of harm to anybody, it's not because of anything like that. It was like under a technicality. So if it takes 300 times for somebody to get stopped once, and then that one time they got stopped, they weren't even like of harm to anybody. And again, right, we're not saying I'm condoning this or not even saying that it's something that should be done, right? But I would think that, hear me out. I would think that there is more room to have nuance behind the concept of consumption versus just saying that if you take one drink, then you're just immediately incapable to make a proper decision. I just don't think that that's how that works. And I understand if you consume, like, everybody interacts with things completely different. That's number one. Number two is if you consume too much, you definitely are a very, very, very big danger to not only yourself but to other people. So I'm not coming from the place of condoning anybody who is going to do something and harm an individual. But what I will say is maybe there is a lot more individuals who are being harmed by the system trying to prevent individuals from being harmed because there's too much of a chokehold on the aspect of drinking and driving. Because if people are literally going to jail over having one drink in their system that they drank like an hour ago, I don't think they're a threat to anybody. Like I really do not. Well, I don't. It's not a matter of me not thinking it. They literally just are fucking not. Like we can just be blunt about that shit all fucking day. And if drinking and driving were such a black and white nuanced thing and nobody should ever drink and drive, and the second you have alcohol in your system, it's such a dangerous thing, bars simply would not exist. Because 9 out of 10 bars you go to, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, call somebody to take you home." But 9 out of 10 bars you go to, you see people go home in their same fucking car that they drove in, and they were drinking all fucking night. And you see the same fucking people who be there for fucking decades upon decades upon decades. So I would like to think that humans don't have the ability to operate under higher levels of nuance past just seeing there being something black and white and there being a rule. It's like there's almost like they see rule and then on off switch. Like there's no way of then using discernment to then check or even then consider the nuance behind things. And let's take this a step even further because DUIs even apply to medical cannabis. There are people who have different ailments or different things that they are using cannabis to soothe or to remedy, right? There are people who have the wild amounts of anxiety, who have depression, who have like all these things that they might not be able to fully function the best way without said modality. So in that exact same breath, it's kind of asinine to then, when people are using medication, especially when we assume that this medication, that first of all, we're assuming that many times the law at least is assuming that anybody who is using cannabis is just using it for the sake of getting high, and then they're assuming if not that, then at the very least that everybody who consumes cannabis has just instantly impaired. Like not no, there's no middle ground. There's everybody who interacts with cannabis is instantly impaired, and that's so wild. That is so far from the fucking truth. especially when we have to take into context the amount that somebody's consumed, their tolerance level, because everybody has a wildly different tolerance, much less all these other factors as to maybe why they're medicating, why they're choosing to do this, and how they are then conducting themselves. Like, I think if somebody has extreme anxiety to the point where they might not be able to get behind a wheel or at least safely, I think that should be something to consider, especially if, and from what I understand, people take different kinds of medications for anxiety that are then allowed to then go drive regardless. Or at the very least, if they're not technically allowed to, then they fucking do regardless. Because you can't tell me that everybody who has anxiety medication just doesn't fucking drive. Like, you're just not going to get that. That's not realistic. So I'd like to think that there needs to be a lot more room and space for nuance in these experiences, because the second that we automatically pigeonhole something to be black and white, and especially in the name of trying to then prevent or trying to help society, the same citizens that you're trying to protect and uphold are the ones who are now going through these abhorrent processes and then creating so much more strife, creating so much more struggle, creating so much more of a problem than there ever was to begin with. And then the problem becomes not only the aspect of the people who are being subject to this, but then the authorities that then uphold it and then feel empowered to then simply not even consider the lives that they are impacting as they make these choices to do whatever else. Because from their end, they don't give two fucks about what the fuck happens to people. From their perspective, they see it as justice. They genuinely see, some people do, some people are just fucking assholes. Some cops and some people in the justice system are just straight up assholes. But some people genuinely see it as justice and as a way to remedy a problem in society, when in reality it's one of the things that's actually causing a problem, because now people who are already going through poverty, people who are already struggling, people who are already going through this and that are now being demonized and now being vilified for things that are not even harmful to them or anybody around them. So again, I'm never going to say that we should just up and say that it's okay to just drink and smoke and drive. But what I will say is I think we need to understand that there can be nuance and there can be layers to these experiences before we just simply need to say that nobody needs to ever, or that nobody can, and that the second somebody does, they're this horrible threat to society, and now they're this horrible person because how dare they get behind the wheel after having a shot of tequila like an hour ago. Like, I think we really need to. And then the crazy part is a lot of times that these people who are upholding these things might not even have had the ability to drink themselves, or they don't even understand their relationship to alcohol themselves. So they themselves are taught this, they fully believe this, and they don't even have the capacity to understand that these laws or these perspectives that they're upholding are simply not that true to the way that they're, or I wouldn't say true, but not as needed to be enforced as heavily to the extent that they are, especially in the context that they are then experienced. And again, I'm not trying to condone anything. I'm going to say this like 30,000 times. I can guarantee there's still going to be people in my comments who are probably going to be like, "Oh, drinking and driving is bad." Drinking, I'm like, that's not the fuck I'm saying. And that's actually part of the fucking problem right there. If anybody does come in my comments saying that shit, it's like you have the inability to listen to the words that's coming out of somebody's mouth, sit with it before you fucking open your mouth, dissect it, and then consider your next words. And I say that with kindness because I'm very tired of having conversations with people, going out of my way to be very clear with how I articulate my perspective, and then having people just blatantly not hear what the fuck I said. But either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know this is going to be something that's wildly controversial. I don't want to say that, again, condoning this is a thing. I understand that there are countless people who have lost their lives or who have lost loved ones to people who have been under the influence and have not had the ability to control themselves and thought they were fully in function of their agencies and then harmed other individuals. But what I will say is if it takes 300 times to stop somebody one time, and then the one time you stop them, they weren't even a harm to anybody, then I might consider that there is nuance to be seen within that statistic. And that's a statistic, I mean, y'all can Google it. But either way, peace and blessings. I hope you guys have a great day.